everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me, and there are no issues with joining. Oh, I see a welcome, Ebony. All right, it looks like everything's good to go. We're all good to go. Okay, so hi, my name is Ebony, Eboni Banks, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with the fact that I have a book coming out on this subject next year that Llewellyn is publishing, and it's called The Intuitive Nudge: 8 Steps to Trust Your Gut, Rely on Yourself, and Create a Joyful Life. I hate that I can't see you guys. Hi, April and Diane and Barbara. So nice to meet you all, your names, and I'll be chatting. I really want this to be interactive as much as possible. Hi, Janice, and not to be like me just talking the whole time, right? So please take full advantage of the chat, and I'll be reading what you chat aloud, and then we can discuss it that way. Hi, Jason. Hi, Sandy. So I guess I'll give a brief intro. All right, I think we're back. If you guys can see and hear me again, thank you. Okay, you're back. So, sorry for that. I don't know what happened, but I was going to just give a brief intro to myself. We only have 30 minutes, and I have so much I want to share. So, if I'm moving too fast, talking too fast, just tell me in the chat. Hey, everybody, Patricia, Stephanie, Amy. So, um, how can I explain it? So I have come to understand intuition. Well, first, let's talk about what intuition is, right? I'm someone who is clairtangent, and I consider all the clair senses, as well as all kinds of spiritual readers, tarot cards. Some people use cowrie shells in certain countries. Whatever things people are reading, I could put all that under the umbrella of intuition. And I think of those things as being advanced level intuition, right? And that's kind of how I've come to understand intuition in levels. Just trying to understand my own self and how it is that I'm clairtangent and I'm able to, how touch triggers all of these things for me. So I'll stop there talking about myself, but I want to talk about intuition overall because lots of people have different ideas about what intuition is. And what I have learned based on how I've tried to study and understand myself and like the things that I experience in my day-to-day life is that intuition is information. It is information that informs us about the world around us, just in the same way that the five senses do. And I strongly connect intuition to the five senses, being clairtangent, which is clear touch, right? Which relates to our touch, which is one of our primary five senses. And so many of the other clair senses also connect to the five primary senses of hear, touch, taste, smell, and see, right? Um, and it's my understanding that at the beginner level, every single person is using intuition, whether they know it or not. We are all using intuition and receiving information in the same way that we do from hear, touch, tasting, smelling, and seeing, right? But intuitive information comes from a different place. It's connected to it lives in our subconscious mind, right? And so we're not always aware of when it is happening unless you are uber present with yourself. And it also is only and always loving. Your intuition would never tell you to harm yourself or someone else, or that's coming from another place. When you hear people getting that kind of information, like your intuition is only loving because it comes from the source of life itself, right? And I understand it as, since human beings are, I think of us as two-part beings, physical and non-physical. And intuition is our non-physical part of us that is spiritual, that connects to whoever, whatever you think the creator of life is, whatever name you give that. Am I going too fast? Are you guys keeping up? Give me some heads up in the chat. I see all the hellos. And also ask me questions. If you need me to like slow down and repeat something, please feel free to ask me a question. So going just right. Great. Thanks, guys. So, yes, that's just an overview of what intuition is. It is just information, you know, and I'm also of the belief that because human beings are two-part beings, men absolutely are intuitive. You know, I know historically it's been associated with only women or just women, and it really makes so much sense, you know, because women are so highly and naturally intuitive because of how our bodies are designed to be receptive, you know, and the making of babies is a bunch of information that our body is receiving that's growing heartbeats and eyelashes and fingernails and hair, right? That's just our body's receiving information. So, hey, Lenise. Lenise. Oh my goodness. Hi. Someone I know personally who I haven't seen or heard of from years. But so let's see. So yes. So um, intuition is information, and at the beginner level, you know, the ways that all of you are experiencing intuition in your everyday life, it can show up in a million ways. If you're someone who is aware, you know, that intuition is information, the way that I understand intuition and how it shows up for me is it really uses my body. In addition to the five senses, I get all kinds of cues from my physical body, right? It can be a sensation, you know, like butterflies in the belly. That's a sign of your intuition. That's like your intuition trying to communicate. It's letting you know, it's trying to get your attention to let you know that there's information if you choose to pay attention to your environment or what's going on in your inner world, because it could be coming from outside of you or inside of you, right? There's information that is wanting to make itself known to you. So sensations like butterflies, you know, some people get goosebumps, and the sensations can be pleasurable or painful, right? It could also be like an achy thing, or, you know, something unpleasant, like if you eat ice cream and you get that feeling in your nose, or something cold, right? Or when you feel cold in your teeth, you know, it can get your attention in those ways as well. Everyone has a certain level of intuition for sure. Yes, absolutely, Heather. The gut doesn't lie. Absolutely. The gut is, you know, everyone has had that feeling where your gut is telling you something, right? Maybe it's really excited and it's like telling you something pleasant is about to happen, or something pleasant is you're becoming aware of something that will make you happy. Or maybe it's telling you that you need to beware, right? Because there's something in your environment that may be unsafe, right? And so when I talked earlier about intuition's messages only being loving, I want to be clear that, you know, when it's alerting you to safety, that doesn't mean it's not being unloving, right? Yeah, I guess I'll just leave it there because that's a whole nother conversation. Vanessa says it can be so tricky to determine what the message is and isn't, maybe if it's fear or intuition. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Vanessa. And so at the beginner level, you know, most folks you're unable to understand like what the message is. You are just aware that like something is going on that is getting your attention. The butterflies, the gut, the sensation, the weird feeling. Even if you meet someone for the first time and you've never met, seen, heard of this person in life, but you have a strong response to them, could be a negative response or a positive response, right? That could also be your intuition. So that's you. Those are kind of beginner level experiences. I want to slow down before I go on to intermediate because you guys are having good questions in here. So someone says, but sometimes your trauma pretends to be the gut. Yes, we need to be careful of trauma. Absolutely. And I'm a trauma survivor. I don't want to try to pronounce your name because I don't think I will pronounce it accurately, but you know who you are who mentioned this comment. And I don't want to mispronounce your name. But yes, I'm a trauma survivor, and I credit my intuition with my ability to heal myself because it guided me to all these loving things. So, one thing that you can, knowing that intuition will only and always be loving, is one way that you can recognize when it's not fear and when it's not trauma, right? Because your trauma will be kind of restrictive. It'll tell you you can't do things, don't do things, it's not safe, you know, all kinds of things that aren't true. And your fear will also, the messages we receive from fear and from trauma can overlap and be quite similar. But in general, both of those messages will be restrictive. You know, it will be about things that we shouldn't do, can't do, won't feel safe. And when it's your intuition, because it is loving, it will be expansive, right? The messages that you receive will be expansive. So I hope that helps you a little bit with your question about trauma, and also the other person who had a question about fear. And then my question is intuition versus anxiety. Heather, that is such a good question. Oh, intuition versus anxiety. So wow, this is a great question, because oftentimes when we're experiencing the other levels of intuition, at the beginner level, you could experience some anxiety, but you are more likely to experience anxiety really at the intermediate level, right? Because um, the feelings and the awareness that comes with intuition, if it's your gut, if it's the sensation, or it could be. Let me give you some other examples of how it can show up. So those are beginner level examples. So Heather, you're leading me to talk about intermediate level. So intermediate level examples are things like um, something that has been on your mind that you've been meaning to do, that you are seeing in the world out, over and over again. Like it's being brought to your attention a lot of times, right? Like repetition, I guess is what I want to say, is an example of like intuition trying to communicate with you a little bit stronger than it is at the beginner level, because it will use repetition. And that repetition can show up anywhere in your reality. It could be a television show, a conversation with a friend, something you read, a song that you hear a lyric for the first time and you've heard the song a million times, right? But what's happening at the intermediate level is your awareness is more expansive. And so intuition will communicate with you and a little more assertively. I hope that makes sense. And at this level, the reason I want to connect this to anxiety is because at this level, once you are aware of what is happening, you can choose to like just stop what you're doing, take a couple of deep breaths, become really present with yourself and your body, just be really present with what's happening so that you can pay attention to the other ways intuition is attempting to communicate with you. And sometimes that can cause anxiety, because if what you are becoming aware of is new information, something you haven't thought about, something you haven't experienced, something that is, closely connected to something that's meaningful and important to you, a relationship, a life experience, finances, something that will have an outcome in your life, then that could cause some anxiety. And that doesn't mean it's not your intuition because it's anxiety. It just means that the information, because it's causing anxiety, because the root of the anxiety is in a different place, right? So it just means that you're receiving as something new, and new change, ideas that are connected to things being new and that connect with us changing any part of our lives can cause anxiety, even when those things are healthy and good for us. And so, Heather, I hope that supports your question about knowing when it's intuition and when it's anxiety. Most of us, anytime we're presented with change in our life, it can cause anxiety. But a lot of times change is great. It's good. It's progress. It's evolution. It's the direction that we should be going in our lives, right? And again, going back to like it being loving and expansive will be another way that you can kind of differentiate that, Heather. So Becky says, listen when your gut says to get away from a location. Don't ever rationalize why you shouldn't listen. Absolutely. Absolutely, Becky. So true. And a lot of times your intuition will not be rational. And the mind will want to like intellectualize it and say, oh, well, this is not true. Even though you're having a feeling about something feeling unsafe, or you shouldn't do this thing or go this way, your mind will say, oh, but I did this before. I went that way last time. It didn't happen previously. So yes, that's a very good point, Becky. Angie says, I missed the first 7 minutes. Oh, okay. No worries, Angie. Okay, let's see what else. Abused children develop intuition because yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Venus Queen says, abused children develop intuition because it is unnecessary for survival. Yes. Let's see what else. Intuition is always loving because it comes from the source and our deep connection, question mark. So Stephen has a question about that. So I'll say a little bit more about that, Stephen. So I'm not sure if you heard me talk about how I process human beings as being two-part beings, right? Our physical and our non-physical. And our non-physical part of us is only loving. right? Our physical part experiences pain and trauma and all of these things that take us away from being loving. But really, our true nature without all those things is love. And so our intuition lives in our subconscious mind, which is, connects to our non physical presence. And that's not why it's only loving, though. It's only loving because it connects to this, to the source of life, whatever name you give that source. We probably all call it different things, right? And so I hope that answers your question, Stephen. Um, that's how I process it. I think life, the source of life is loving, and our intuition is coming from that part of us. Intuition is only loving. Yes, I agree with trauma can look. Let's see, I want to find something else. I found fear makes my girl sick, my gut sick, where intuition is a buzzing feeling in my body. So that is a great note, Crystal, because we all experience our bodies differently, right? The buzzing feeling that you feel in your body is absolutely one way that your intuition is attempting to communicate with you. But the gut sick, I found fear. Oh, fear makes your gut sick, and intuition because of the buzzing feeling. I understand what you're saying. Yes. And so all of you may not experience the buzzing feeling, right? It can show up in a million ways in your body. And the key is to really just pay attention to like how your body is feeling at any given moment, right? Like oftentimes we will, when we're uncomfortable, our body tells us before our brain even recognizes it, because we're so worried trying to be polite or trying to put on a nice face for whomever, when really that person is making us highly uncomfortable. But we cannot like verbalize it or express it in our like outwardly, but our body is telling us so, right? So paying attention to things like, I always like to refer to, some people will curl their toes in their shoes, or they will raise their shoulders, or they will, constrict their hips or their buttocks, right? We do all kinds of things when we're uncomfortable, and we're in these states so often that we normalize them. So the key is to really allow yourself to walk through life with as much ease as you can. Managing stress is a big part of accessing more of your intuition. And I also want to say that you can move through the levels, you could have an easier time, accepting one particular change or idea or something in your life that you're wanting, that your intuition could guide you to very assertively and be experiencing it at an intermediate level, and then something else that you're having a harder time believing that you can have in your life, or believing that you can manifest, or believing, and for whatever reason, you might only experience the guidance of intuition at the beginner level. And so yes, we can definitely move from levels to levels, I hope that makes sense. And please put some comments below. There are 10 new messages, so I want to kind of go through all of them before I move on. Mine shows itself in day and night dreams. Yes, intuitions can absolutely show up in dreams. And you can set, sometimes when I'm really needing information, I will set my intention before I go to sleep, just like we set intentions for other things we want. My sleep life in particular is highly impactful in my life. It gives me a lot of information. I've actually had two mystics tell me that I don't sleep much because my sleep life is so active, right? And so I have learned that it's helpful for me to set intentions before I go to bed, like I do in my life, goal setting or things that I want in my waking life. I'll set those intentions for the information I want to receive in my sleep, because I get so much information in my sleep and it comes. A really good example I can share. I wrote a memoir about my trauma and my healing journey and how intuition has served me. And it's called Copy the Sky. And I had another name for it that I didn't like. And I went to sleep and I was like, well, before I went to sleep, I was like, I want to change the name. So I set the intention for my intuition to give me the name of my book in my sleep. And I woke and it was Copy the Sky. I never heard, seen, read Copy the Sky anywhere in life, And so that's the name of my book. So yes, dreams are definitely one way that you can access your intuition. It can come in really any way imaginable. It's just going to use whatever mechanism, whatever avenue it can use to get your attention the most, it's going to use that. So if you're someone who, you get a lot of information in your sleep like me, it's going to use your dreams. If you're someone who you are a couch potato and you're in front of the television all day long, things are going to show up that you've never seen, before on the television shows that you're watching, because your awareness is now heightened, right? Um, Let me move on. So Mary Jimenez says, hi, my question is intuition and the messages from guides and religion, how to determine which is which. They are all loving. Great question. So guides and religion. So I don't know if I think I alluded to it in a comment, but I didn't say explicitly that intuition is guidance. The information you're receiving is guidance, right? And it's guidance that leads you to more of what you are desiring in life. And when I think of desires, I'm not talking about vices and the things that, you like to do that are bad for you. I'm talking about healthy desires that are part of your soul journey and purpose and path in life, right? And it can be very mundane things too, like what you choose to eat, right? It doesn't mean they all have to be like these grand ideas. It can be small things that your intuition will use to get you um, to begin to use it more, because I think of intuition like a muscle, we all have it. It can never go away, but we do have to use that muscle for it to strengthen. So when it comes to messages from guides and religion, I'm not a religious person, even though I was raised a Christian and went to Sunday school and all the things. I'm not a religious person, so I don't know how religion guides people necessarily. How does, yeah, you would have to tell me more about that, Mary, because I don't know how intuition guides, but I mean, how religion guides. But I do know with intuition, because it is you, right? It is coming from you. It is not coming from outside of you. The guidance is not coming from outside of you. It differs from religion in that way. Because what I think about when I think about religion is so much of those messages are that it's, you're praying to deities and energies and entities that are not part of you. So please give me more information about that, Mary, and I'll come back to it. But Venus says, can you speak to intuition as messages from the universe trying to tell you something such as a symbol appearing? Yes. So generally speaking, and I know I'm like, please slow me down if I need to. Generally speaking, I think of intuition as that's what you've just spoken of, Venus, is really what intuition is. They are messages from the universe, from the world around us, right? The universe is everything, the cosmos, the earthly world, like everything. And so I think of intuition as us, as our ability to access information from the general world around us, in the same way that we access information from what we see, touch, taste, hear, and smell, right? Which is why the clair senses, 5 of the clair senses correlate to those, because there is definitely connection there. So when you're wanting to know more about repetition, a symbol appearing. So if you're seeing something multiple times, that is a strong sign for you to pay attention to what that means for you, right? And it's really important when you're understanding when you're attempting to understand what your intuition is communicating, don't ask other people. It's about you and how you understand the symbol, how you understand the message, because it can pull. Intuition is so intelligent that it has history. It knows the entirety of your life experience. The things that you've even forgotten consciously, your intuition has not forgotten, right? So it's really important that when you're receiving any kind of message, but especially repetitious messages, because those are like, it's being really assertive to get you to understand, to see, to know the thing. Where was I going with that? Oh, where was I going? So it's really important, for you to only rely on yourself, because, it could be pulling from a memory that you relate to a symbol from when you were a child. So if you ask someone about it, they may not have the same memory or relate to the same symbol in the same way. And when it comes to spiritual symbols, that's a different thing, because for the most part, you know, we will understand some of those things the same. But when it comes to, I don't know, maybe like a cookie that or a scent that you smell, or, a memory that you have that you're interpreting as a symbol, it's really important to rely on your own experience with the thing, because that will help you be accurate in understanding what your intuition is communicating. Um, let's see. So for sure you have to fight the anxiety sometimes. Yes, you do. And I want just since anxiety is coming up again, I just want to mention that I just want you guys to keep in mind when it comes to anxiety around your intuition. Oftentimes, even we can want something and at the same time be afraid of having it or think we're not worthy of it. And those things can cause anxiety. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes we have to push through that, and the reason that we're having those feelings is not because it's we should go a different route. It's because it's connected to other things that will expand or change our life in some way that could cause anxiety, right? I mean, evolution is often that way, right? My therapist calls it hyper awareness. Yeah, Stevie, I would say the same thing. I am so aware that, sometimes I wonder if it's healthy, because I'm just so uber aware of everything, and it causes me to have to learn how to respond, and when I can ignore what I'm aware of, and when I can make it useful for me because I'm just so aware. So yes, it is absolutely a hyper awareness. Ava says, I'm learning the difference between anxiety and intuitive awareness and to give each its respect and space. Yes, yes. And, if you find that you're someone who experiences a lot of anxiety, focus on experiencing intuition at the beginner level. Don't really try to, get intuitive messages about things that are going to have a big impact on your life, because that will only cause you to have more anxiety, because the impact of those things has a greater outcome on your life. So focus on smaller things like, where do I want to have lunch today? What time do I want to do anything? Those kinds of things, because that will help you develop that muscle in a way that is more fun and easygoing. And, this is a gift. It's a gift that every human being has. It's fun, it's playful, it's light. And so it should be treated in that same way, And so before you can get to, the advanced levels where you're giving people readings and strangers who you've never met in life, and you're speaking things that you know about them just like that because you trust yourself at that level, right? Play with the beginner level first for folks who are anxiety ridden. Um, yeah. Jolie says, unfortunately, anxiety can tell you to avoid a situation it deems dangerous as well. Yes, it can. And so, you will have to learn your own cues about how your body is telling you what kind of anxiety is showing up for you. And you will be able to do that. It's nuanced, but you will get to know yourself so well. The awareness that you can cultivate from using your intuition, you will get to know yourself in a whole nother way beyond all the things you know about yourself now, what you like, don't like, right? This is a whole nother level of developing and cultivating a relationship with yourself. And you will know, when this kind of anxiety is something you can push forward, or is helpful for you to push past because it's leading you to something you're wanting that you just have a little discomfort with receiving for whatever reason, versus when it's an anxiety from, like, telling you not to walk down that street, not to do this thing at this time, right? Because it will put you in a it will question your safety, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So yes, you will get to know yourself at that level. um Victoria says, when I follow my intuition and I tell someone that my intuition is telling me to do something, when I follow my intuition and I tell someone that my intuition is telling me to do something, they look at me like I have three heads. How do you approach this and reassure others that I am a normal person? I'm just intuitive. I wouldn't care about reassuring others, Victoria. This is all about your relationship with you. And that's really all intuition is. The way you move through the levels, it's about your relationship with you and how you learn to trust yourself as you are engaging with all that life is presenting to you, right? And so yeah, my only advice is, who cares what the other person is saying? Only, or what they think. Don't even tell them. Don't even tell them. Like, really, because unless it's in a context of a reading, like I have clients, I'm telling them all kinds of things, right? And they don't question it because they know that what I'm saying is accurate based on what I've said previously or whatever, right? And so depending on who you're talking to, if you're talking to people that look at you like you have three heads, don't talk to those kind of people anymore. Just find other kinds of folks. Stevie says hyper awareness is how medical doctors describe what they don't know. Wow, I didn't know that, Stevie. Oh, is that Stevie? Stevie. No, it looks like another name, but Stevie Hyper. I'm not sure what's happening, but whomever said that, thank you. I did not know that. There is an article on my Instagram, which I share lots of tips there. And there was one that's a friend shared with me that was posted in like some medical journal or something about a woman who they called the super smeller, which I thought was so funny because she's Claire. What's the one where you can smell? Oh, clear olfactants, which is clear smelling. And this woman, I believe she was in the UK, she could smell that her husband had this illness that, he then had checked out and I can't remember what it was because I posted it a little while ago, but the hyperlink I think is still in my bio on my Instagram. So that just made me think of medical things, because this woman was clear olfactants and the medical community doesn't recognize that. And they were calling it a hyper awareness as well. Let's see, what else? Jolie says, do you have any tips or resources for parents? Oh, no. How do we help nurture and develop the natural intuition with which our children are born? Yes, that is such a beautiful question. I was an intuitive child. And of course, as a kid, you don't know the word. At least I didn't, right? And so, and I questioned like whether I was bad because I knew things people didn't tell me. And sometimes I just thought I'm really smart. That's how I know these things. I was all over the place trying to understand like what is happening. So with children, I think it's really important to just um, meet them where they are, of course, right? And whatever level of experience they're having. If you're a child, like it's at the point where they can interpret or understand. I don't like to use the word interpret, where they can receive the information so clearly that that they know things very easily, then I would meet them there and trust them and ask them questions about how the intuition feel, like how they know, and where in their body they're receiving that information. Like if they're ask them if their body, if they're recognizing anything in their body that's helping them to connect that with the information they're receiving, and also ask them if it's loving. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. Also ask them if it's loving and making sure that the information they're receiving is always loving. Because if a child is saying things like, they should hurt themselves or someone else, that is not their intuition. I don't know what that is. It will be different for different people, children. But yeah, I would inquire, ask them lots of questions about how they're understanding it, because they are definitely receiving cues that are leading them to the information. And with intuition, if children are likely advanced level, right? Because they don't have as many barriers as we do. And so those cues are coming like this for them. It's seamless, right? So it may be difficult for them to connect a cue to the information. But if you can ask them questions, Jolie, that may help them and you, help you understand your child too. Level to level less, you can be blocked. Yeah, we can. I don't like the word blocked so much, but we cannot trust ourselves, right? And we don't trust ourselves for all kinds of reasons. We don't forgive ourselves for hurtful things we've done in the past, like a million reasons. And so that's why I spoke a little earlier about really minimizing your stress and being easy and making it fun, because you will move through the levels based on how easy you allow this to be for you, because it is natural. Know that it is natural for you. And so it shouldn't ever be anything you have to work for, right? It should really be something that you just recognize as natural, and you open yourself up and you relax enough and remove enough stress from your life and your body that you allow yourself to receive like with ease, right? So many. Oh my, I have so many questions to get to. Okay, let me move on. What is the sleep you are talking about? So many times I've said last night while I was asleep, I figured out how to. Yeah. So Victoria, the sleep is just when you're asleep, the sleep that whenever, if you take a nap, when you're sleeping at night, when we're sleeping, we very easily, you know, shift from consciousness to unconsciousness, right? Or subconsciousness. And I want to differentiate the two because a lot of people use unconscious and subconscious interchangeably. I think of them differently. To me, unconscious is like someone in a coma, and subconscious is like what is happening while you are conscious that you're unaware of. I hope that makes sense. So when we're asleep, we very easily go from the state of consciousness to the state of subconsciousness. So I hope that answers your question, Victoria. JK says yes, to see if any nursery school in Europe I'm not under. Oh, JK, yes. Oh, you guys are talking to each other here. I'm just getting that. These are not all for me. Okay, so let me find the ones for me. Pretend nothing is there. We are told that it is all pretend and nothing is there. That is an absolute lie, Janice. We are so much more than we know, and future humans will know this. Like at this level of our human evolution, where we're only using 30% of our brain and, we don't have a full awareness of all that we are and all that we're capable of. It's unfortunate that people think that it's pretend, but it is absolutely not. It is just another form of intelligence. And I think that's the first time I've said that here. I think of intuition as another form of intelligence. I think it's more intelligent than our brain because it knows what our brain doesn't know, right? Because of its connection to our subconscious, and it can see, what our eyes can't even see. In the case of people who are clairvoyant and using advanced level intuition, so it's a very high form of intelligence, I think. BM, yes, you let the free thinking and guidance help happens. Go for it. Yes, yes. I'm trying to find questions for me, you guys. And if, oh my gosh, they're 38. How is that possible? Downloads and answers while I'm sleeping. Yes, you guys sleep. And if you're someone who has a hard time sleeping, because sleep is such a powerful thing and we all do it. I think we spend like 30% of our lives in our sleep state, which is a lot of our life sleeping, right? So it's important to pay attention to that part of our life and to manage it as best we can so that it's serving us, in its full capacity. So if you're someone who has a hard time sleeping, make sure you're doing things an hour or so before you go to sleep to kind of calm your mental state, right? Don't watch the news or anything disturbing. If you're one of your shows you like is like something with people being murdered, don't watch that before you go to bed. Make sure don't drink caffeine and things that are going to keep you up hours before you go to sleep. If you need something warm, decaf something, or like warm milk, which I know sounds like you're a kid, but no, it works for adults too. Even warm water, if that helps for you, right? But the point is, before you go to sleep, because we spend 30% of our lifetime sleeping, you really want to make sure you prep for sleep if you're someone who has a difficult time sleeping. If you live in a big city, get earplugs, and plug your ears so that the outside noise is not disturbing you. Think of ways that you can like calm down and relax before you go to sleep. For me, deities send signs that my intuition helps me notice and translate. That is beautiful, Brian. A lot of us have relationships with deities and archetypes and goddesses and all the things. And yes, those are very powerful allies. If you have a relationship with those energies, angels, ancestors, whatever it is for you, because again, like I mentioned earlier, your intuition is going to use what will most strongly resonate with you, right? So for some of us, it'll be deities. For some people, it could be, planets. For somebody else, it could be music. It'll all depend. Right, and that it's wrong to pretend. My twin boys and I had a tough preschool, but my grandkids adore their freedom with me. Oh, you guys are talking to each other again. Let me focus on the ones for me. Intuition could be connected to your Akashic records. Yes, it can absolutely be connected to your Akashic records. The way I understand Akashic records is through the teachings of Edgar Cayce. I read his books years ago, and that makes sense to how I naturally understand things. And so I trust that. So yes, if you understand Akashic records as being this energy field, this vortex of information, absolutely it connects to the Akashic records because intuition is also information. I've tried to warn of some not well received, but then something big affects them too, and they try hard to tell me. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't ever, people are going to be where they are in their own relationship with themselves and how they recognize themselves as spiritual beings, right? And so, if you have information for someone else, which is a warning, you know, based on your relationship with that person and what you know about that person, you will have to navigate how you share that information with them. Um, Great question. I wonder if there could cause some intuition to be forgotten. Oh, it happens to me. Yes. Oh, Mary, that's such a good point that you made to Victoria about it being forgotten. That used to happen to me all the time. And sometimes it still does. Like I will make notes of things. I'll use voice memos on my cell phone. I will do all kinds of things because intuition is so seamless, from thought often that you may, and it can be behind your primary thoughts. We're oftentimes thinking of multiple things at once. We're human beings are highly intelligent and highly complex. And so you can have a thought behind a thought behind a thought. And your intuition could live somewhere and behind all those other thoughts because your primary thought is on whatever you're working on, whomever you're talking to. And while you're doing those things, you can simultaneously be receiving information, which we all do all the time, right? And some of that information is absolutely intuitive. And so as you get to know yourself, you will be able to recognize when it's your intuition and when it's a thought. And I guess I can talk about that briefly since it's coming up here. But because intuition and thought are two completely different things, right? Your intuition will be something you didn't think about. And so that's probably the greatest indication of when it's your intuition because it will present something you never thought about, right? Which is what also connects to why it's expansive, right? And loving as opposed to like constrictive and fearful or anxiety ridden. But there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, about forgetting. So yes, because it's so seamless, it could come in like a split second, right? And you might receive it in that split second, but you're doing other things and your attention is being pulled a million other places, and so you forget it. So yes, please use like your voice notes on your cell phone. Make notes of these moments. Your guide puts you where you need to be. Yes, your guides absolutely do. We're always where we need to be, always. Even, as a trauma survivor, even the depression and everything I went through to like pull myself out of that, that was where I needed to be at that time. So, I just say that so that you know that you're never in a wrong place or not where you need to be. Mary, that's the only way I can imagine that I get so many answers. Let's see. I have a funny anecdote. I was doing a tarot reading for myself and I had a card jump. Card fell out of the deck while shuffling. Happens all the time. It wasn't a good card, so I put it back in the deck, reshuffled thoroughly, and drew the exact same card. I took that as a hint. Yeah. Yeah. Everything is energy, right? And so, your energy, and that's how I understand tarot card readers. And, and those are the folks that I trust when I have tarot card readings, which I don't do often, but I own 2 decks myself and I'll play with them here and there. But it's all about my energy, right? The energy of the person who's managing the cards. So yes, absolutely. I tend to get strong feelings about people sometimes. My husband had a very charming friend who was beloved by the community, led church choir, started a prison ministry, volunteered in dozens of groups, and married a single mom with 3 kids, raising them as his own. I absolutely hated this guy and couldn't stand to be in the same room with him. He made my skin crawl. Well, it came out that he was molesting, oh my goodness, his stepdaughters. And of course, he went to prison and the whole town was shocked, everyone except me. Yes. Yes, that is such a great example, Nick, because and a typical one because our intuition presents information we didn't think of, and it's most people aren't using it as often as they can be. You may oftentimes be the only person that has a particular opinion about something. The masses may completely disagree, and the masses can be your work family, your church family, your friend family, whoever it is. The majority of the people may not see it because they aren't focusing on, or they're not allowing themselves to receive intuition. So yeah, that's a great example. You may, depending on, and that's why I said earlier to someone that you really don't, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says. It really only matters what you think, because your soul perspective may be the accurate one in a sea of people who think they know, right? You do not owe anyone an explanation of why you choose to do something ever. No, absolutely not. I was taught to tell that I was taught to tell I was taught to tell the definitely not intuitive, anxious, negative voices, thank you for trying to protect me, but this isn't what I need right now. Just wanted to pass that on to cease. Oh, in case it was helpful to anyone else. Okay, so this person is saying, Anna is saying she was told um, to tell the obviously non-intuitive voices, thank you for trying to protect me. Yeah, it's funny you say that because I used to say a similar kind of mantra to myself whenever I received a thought that I didn't want to be thinking. I would thank myself for having the thought, and then I would dismiss the thought, because that just helped me by consciously dismissing something that I didn't want that was coming into my awareness. It just helped me create distance between myself and that experience. So yeah, that's a great suggestion, Anna. Um, Monica says this has been so informative and you have such a calm presence. Oh, thank you so much, Monica. Oh, thank you for telling me I'm a good speaker. I feel like I'm like going so fast because I only have 30 minutes and there's so much I want to say. And there are 39 messages I haven't even gotten to. But thank you for that. Thank you for that. My book will be out next year. I swear I channeled so much of it, because as someone who's so highly and naturally intuitive, I'm not always aware when it's happening, but I trust myself enough to like let it flow. I did not get to advanced level. So really quickly, it's all the clairs, the tarot card readers, the clair senses. Um, when you're at the advanced level, it's when without a doubt, you trust the information you're receiving, you know what it is, you speak it, you say it, you have no doubt, essentially, because it looks like Llewellyn Books is back here. And so our 30 minutes may be over soon. I want to just go through these questions as quickly as I can.
Hey, Ebony.
Hey.
Hello. So we're actually at 45 minutes and
Oh
we've
my
had, no,
gosh.
it has been so much fun and so great. Do you have any last thoughts and good things you want to share with everyone?
Last thoughts. No, I think I hit all the major points. I just want to, I guess I can leave with sharing that it's really about your relationship with you. It is not some, you know, it's practical, it's accessible, it's not like something, highly spiritual or only certain kinds of people can access. No, everyone can be clear something because it's all about your relationship with you and how much you choose to allow yourself to receive this information in the same way that you receive information from what you hear, touch, taste, smell, and see.